seems relatively calm there. While Occupy Wall Street organizers had invited union members and students to be part of today's demonstration, and many of each showed up in Lower Manhattan.
But with so much attention on the protests, some messages started to change. The students had their own complaints and found themselves with a chance to be heard. Stacey Sager in Union Square. Stacey.
Well, Dave, we had thousands of people out here in Union Square all afternoon. The crowd is now dispersing behind me. All of them students. Now, this group basically started walking here at 3 o'clock today. Then they assembled for a huge rally at the north end of Union Square, where a couple of thousand of students from CUNY, Fordham, NYU, to name only a few, came here to talk about their enormous student debt and how they have no capacity to pay it back, much less find a job. You go to NYU,
yeah.
And how do you afford it? I mean,
how do I afford it? I'm in over $100,000 of student debt.
At NYU right now?
At NYU.
How are you going to pay for that when you get out?
Oh, I'm going to have to figure that out.
Now, we talked to student after student here who gave us the same story, many of them about $100,000 in debt with no idea how they're going to find a job. They're also upset about unpaid internships they've been doing, which they call entry-level jobs, really, because as companies downsize, that's what these jobs have become, and they feel they deserve to get paid for those jobs. So these students, too, feel they're part of that 99%. We're live in Union Square. I'm Stacey Sager, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Stacey, thank you. Much of the crowd that was behind Stacey now on the move out of Union Square. Shannon Sohn is over that crowd now in Newscopter 7. Shannon, what do you know?
Yeah, Liz, it is a huge crowd, and if you were here just a few minutes ago trying to access the subway at Union Square, this is what you would have seen, but now that crowd is on the move. Now, we already know that everyone is planning to gather at Foley Square. They surprised us when they went west on East 16th Street, but that is what they are doing now. They are going across East 16th Street, and they've actually managed to completely shut down Fifth Avenue with their mass amounts of numbers here. Now, as Stacey mentioned, there are literally thousands, and that's what you're seeing right there. They are starting to move south on Fifth Avenue, right now crossing East 15th Street and heading down towards 14th Street. Presumably, this whole crowd is heading down towards Foley Square to join up with the rest of their group so that they can then move on towards the Brooklyn Bridge a little bit later on in the evening. But it is an enormous crowd, and police are here with them. They are at the head of the crowd, making sure that everything stops at Fifth Avenue. But the one thing we did notice is that it was the protesters themselves that shut down the traffic on Fifth Avenue. You see this taxi cab sort of stuck in the middle of all these protesters. It has been peaceful since we have been overhead, but with them on the move, we'll of course keep you updated on the latest. Reporting live over Union Square, Shannon Sohn, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Shannon, thank you. Certainly making a mess of the commute home for a lot of folks, and the demonstrations and the planned march, no surprise, disrupting the roads, especially in Lower Manhattan and around the area Shannon just showed us.
Yeah, let's get right to Heather O'Rourke in the newsroom with what commuters need to know.
Well, Shannon was just showing us those protesters are on the move, and we still have some roadways subject to closure down by Union Square, 14th Street westbound, 2nd Avenue to 5th Avenue, and Broadway at 17th Street, and Park Avenue southbound at 17th Street down into Union Square. And as Shannon said, 5th Avenue is pretty much closed down right near 15th Street with these protesters on the move. Now, as far as mass transit is concerned, we have the subways running okay. No protest-related problems at this time. However, large crowds are gathered outside of subway stations, so give yourself some extra time. PATH, New Jersey Transit, they're running on a close to schedule, but again, large crowds could be gathered by your station. And the buses, expect delays on the M5 and the eastbound M34 SBS is terminating at 1st and 34th Street. Let's take a look at an outside camera. Now, this is actually the Williamsburg Bridge. We do have a lot of delays. You can see that line of brake lights heading into Manhattan. This is both the inner and the outer roadways completely jammed. And we have a shot of the Brooklyn Bridge as well. The Brooklyn Bridge is actually moving very well in both directions. No major problems yet, but we understand protesters are expected to march across that bridge around 5 p.m. They could sit, they could march, so expect delays in a bit getting across that Brooklyn Bridge. Heather O'Rourke, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, Heather, we're of course will be checking in with you throughout the newscast this afternoon. Thanks so much. Well, the situation obviously is changing by the minute with more demonstrators gathering, and the march to the Brooklyn Bridge scheduled to begin in less than an hour from now. We will keep you going back to Lower Manhattan, tell you about any disruptions and to the roads and the rails.
And you know, we've received dozens of comments and photos. One woman writes about the protesters, quote, "Once they start getting disruptive and destructive and prevent people from getting around the city, I say arrest those troublemakers. We've got for and against them. Also, take a look at this photo posted on Twitter by Caroline. Protesters and police coming face to face near each other on Wall Street. Keep sending us pictures and comments. We will continue to show them and read your reactions throughout this newscast.
And as Eyewitness News First to 4 continues on this very busy Thursday afternoon, we're going to take a look at the other news of the day, including a health alert about a snack that could be in your child's lunchbox. Coming up, find out